How did California, when I grew up, was the state I wanted to live in? I lived up in the Pacific Northwest. There was nothing more beautiful and more pristine and healthy than California, and it slowly turned into this. How did it get here?
Progressive politics. It really is as simple as that. When you have one state, in this case, Democrat-run policies, that always sound right, but never do anything. Oh, we have a homeless problem. What should we do? Throw more money at it, not discuss mental health, not discuss policing or any of those other issues. It's just always about throwing more money at things. So right now, the Venice Boardwalk has been completely overrun. The Venice Boardwalk, it's famous worldwide, where the skate park is, and so much cool music and culture came from this part of California, and it's completely decimated. You know, you can see what some of the images that I see you guys are throwing to right now. Some of these are in downtown Los Angeles. Some of them are sort of in the mid-Wilshire area. It's pretty much everywhere. And then what they do is, then we bring in DAs like we have here in Los Angeles right now. We have this guy, George Gascon, who was the former DA of San Francisco, who by every estimation ruined San Francisco. Everyone knows that people are fleeing San Francisco. Well, what happens? He then becomes the DA of Los Angeles. By the way, he replaced the first female black DA that Los Angeles ever had. Now, I don't care about identity politics, but it's sort of ironic considering he's a straight white man and he was Bernie backed. So they took out the first black female DA. Not that that makes you qualified in and of itself, obviously, but it's just such a system of just failure and failure and failure. And the more you wreck things, the better you will be in terms of your career.
How is that? Why? Because
progressives don't have solutions. This has been a very hard conclusion for me to come to. As a guy that wrote a book defending liberalism right over my shoulder, I have come to the uncomfortable conclusion that at the end of a purely secular liberalism, where the state is supposed to be the be-all and end-all to everything, you will always have this destructive force at the end. Because what the progressives have done is trick everybody into thinking that victimhood is virtue. So they constantly want to, pretend that they're doing things for marginalized groups. They constantly want to tell you they're doing things for homeless people or for black people or for gay people. But in most cases, they're doing nothing for them other than perpetuating the problems that may or may not exist in the first place. So just throw money to homeless people. Well, congratulations. Right now, Gavin Newsom is giving all this housing to homeless people. Do you think that stops what the root problem is, that may be either psychological or have to do with the economy or anything else? No, you're actually just putting often very drug addicted, mentally ill people in hotels. And you're saying basically stay there forever. And then what happens, as of course you know, well, then the crime starts in those areas. And then you actually start exporting the crime into suburban areas. So I think it's just the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I don't blame most of the average progressive populace that sort of thinks they don't want to think about these issues, right? This is why politics is so messy. Most people don't want to think about issues. So they tell you, okay, there's a homeless problem. What do you say? Well, we better fund anti-homeless initiatives. And then do they ever work? No, they just don't. So it's entrenched interests. It's very similar to our problems here related to teaching. Everyone's so upset about, our school system here in California. Well, it's funded to the tilt, but the answer is always, just give it more money and suddenly they'll be better, and they never are.
So the latest on homelessness is a government-run homeless camp in East Hollywood. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this.
I am.
The lot can hold up to 70 tents of approximately 120 people in 12 by 12 foot white squares painted on the asphalt. Campers can bring in their own tents and whatever belongings they have. There are half a dozen porta potties on one side of the lot. The site also provides showers, 3 meals a day, 24/7 security. Homeless men and women at the site also entered into the county's database and will get social services. It says ideally will get the social services they need. The price tag is $2,663 per person per month. Dave, can't you rent an apartment for that?
Yes, you can. I don't live in the best part of Los Angeles. I don't live in Beverly Hills. But yes, you can rent an apartment. And to over 2,000 per person. I mean, you can also get roommates and, defray your costs in all sorts of ways. But again, this is exactly what they do with everything. They incentivize bad behavior. And then do you think any of those people who, Glenn, we've talked about this many times. I mean, the main reason people live in SoCal is for the weather. I mean, that is truly at this point, and my feelings on this. I'm trying to figure out the long-term plan here, but mainly people live here for the weather. And as you referred to before, you were in the Pacific Northwest. Well, you could come down a little bit and you could be in Northern Cali and wine country, and then the weather in SoCal and San Diego and all of those things.
It's beautiful.
But you're incentivizing homeless people to come here from all over the country, then say, we're going to set you up. And the real issue is, and this is the stat that they'll never show you, when they set up these camps, how many people do they ever set right? How many people go to those camps and somehow, because of the coaching or whatever it is that they're doing, are just there temporarily? Because that's what a healthy society would do. You'd only be homeless temporarily because we would be able to help you properly. But instead now we give drugs to people. We're just doing everything wrong because we don't really want to think about things.
Okay, when I come back, I want to show you another plan that they have for the homeless, and I'd love to get your take on this. The tiny homes of California in just a second.